Hey gang, how's everyone doing? I think you, like I, are wondering, is there nothing 2020 won't take from us?
Sadness.
Welcome to What's the Damage? We are, of course, the companion show to the incredibly well-known and popular real play D&D show, Roll for Damage, going viral any second now. Sad news for our heroes. Dobby Pons is perma-dead, marking the first for realsies death of the game. I'll be speaking today with the party members who tolerated him the most. Then after that, we'll be talking about streaming, tips, tricks, methods, and dark secrets. All of that right now. As always, stick around after the stream and happy National Voter Registration Day. Go to vote.org to either register or check that your registration has not been illegally purged by the conservatives trying to sabotage our democracy. I've been reading too much news. I'm your host, Truth Venson, and this is What's the Damage? Hey, welcome back. Joining me today is our wonderful DM mom, Serenity, who is the architect of all our heartbreak. And there is Tick, who plays the once also dead Sinric, but he's still alive. We'll talk about that. And
For
Caleel, who
now.
plays Baltaim. Oh yeah, who knows who's next? Who knows? How are you guys doing? You've had your first permadeath in the campaign.
Sadness, despair, regret,
Yeah.
loss. Yeah.
It's like
It was a good
everything all rolled into one.
it was a good birthday though.
All right, who's your birthday?
I mean,
At least you didn't die on your birthday.
That's true. Hey, thank
Yeah.
you. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
I mean, it was all out of my hands
Yeah.
completely.
No, it was. Yeah.
Sometimes the dice are like that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes
they
you get
are.
get that
For
bad
Jay,
roll.
they're always like that.
Oh my God, I feel so bad.
It feels like roll 20 is just
no,
always.
no.
It wasn't roll
It's-
20.
It's Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
For
seen that as Shay. His carryover.
He just
Yeah.
lost another character last night.
yeah, friends,
Oh, God.
for context, on our Monday game, I killed Jay's character.
Well, she didn't. I mean, he turned into
No,
a
I
werewolf.
fully did.
And yeah, well, I mean, you didn't help. But he turned into a werewolf. She took him down. Instead of medicine checking him and stabilizing him, she left him. And of course, Jay rolled terrible death saving throws.
Yeah.
What's like, what is it on the new character he just introduced? He went down and then rolled a nat one on his first
no,
death
not
save.
one.
Oh my God, I did honestly think for a second.
The bad
I was
guy
like, oh
felt
God, I
bad,
hope he
was
has
like-
another.
No,
That guy
character.
felt bad.
that was
like-
100% he thought he was winning. Like you guys were like they had your one of your guys like walking off into the desert like
Oh
hundreds
yeah,
of
yeah.
feet.
I'm just
And
saying
so
that
they
that guy
thought they
was
were
like,
winning.
oh, this guy's kind of dying. Hold on, wait a second. Let me fix
You
him
know,
up real
his
quick.
plan was to like tie him up and take him, but it didn't work out. He got away
Yeah.
though.
Did not work out. Happy ending.
Yeah.
Okay. So how are both your characters doing? I think Baltaim and Sinric were definitely the closest in the party to Dobby. Sinric had long history. Baltaim actually liked him.
It's an interesting dynamic. I mean, it's one of those, being the oldest character. You have to ask, why other people, why not you? Because I mean, in standards, yeah, I'm definitely one of the oldest people in the group, as far as lifespan goes.
And I think I think Baltimore doesn't understand how his grieving process is gonna go out. I don't even know how it's gonna work out necessarily. I think part of that's probably me looking at what everyone else is like doing, and I don't want to be like everyone just fucking pissed off and crying and shit. I want there to be like different viewpoints of grieving. Some people don't handle, like, some people literally their parents could die, next day they're in work, they're just, hey, what's it going? The same thing. You won't really see that side of them until they're behind closed doors with no one else around. So I kind of wanted to see, like, kind of was looking at what everyone else was doing. I don't think Baltimore would be that emotional person anyway. So I think it was kind of just looking at what everyone else was doing and kind of wanted to take a different spin on grieving. And I think just who Dobby is as a person, Baltimore kind of connected to the halfling stuff. We haven't gone into Baltimore, but he knows language, so he knows. So it just kind of it hurts, for him, but he doesn't. I don't think he understands how that process is going to work for him, as I don't understand it currently right now.
Yeah, so we haven't gone into Baltimore. Without spoilers, can you tell us, like, has Baltimore like lost people before in this kind of way?
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
He has lost people, but it might not necessarily been him understanding it as that, or even being aware of it. And clearly he's not lost his sister, but he's like, his sister's not with him currently, so he's you know trying to understand that. He believes she's alive. It could, she could very well be dead. And part of that's like the grief cycle of like coming to like the denial and then going to acceptance. Like, maybe he doesn't. He's like super believing that, but it could be like, you at one point you need to understand, like, alive. So that's something you need to consider, possibly. So I would say yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into Cynric, because Cynric has died, and sort of in mirror image of Dobby, because remember, this was like on the first episodes we did, possibly the first. Was it the first?
I think it was the first.
Yeah,
I think
but
it was like
Dobby's
the 6th or something like that.
yeah. But you really saw in back then when Cynric went down, like, Dobby's emotional attachment to him. So how's it from Cynric's perspective, especially after having experienced death? Is there any kind of survivor's guilt? Does he think it was Dobby's time?
Definitely survivor's guilt, just based on age alone. But where he's coming from, given the whole like affiliation of being alone for so long, it's kind of become it's an interesting dynamic, because grief isn't just necessarily the sadness that someone died, but more so the fact that it's not like we're close friends, pick up the telephone and talk for hours type friends. I mean, it was somewhat, like a passing relationship. It was a good standing. It was really one of the few people that he would talk to and actually be able to work with and interact with after everything. So it's one of those where it's like that guilt of, yeah, he probably shouldn't have died at this age, but also at the same token, it's like, okay, well, I lost a reliable connection to the world and to what's around me. So it's one of those where you might kind of see him kind of get more into, like, not, I don't want to say not talking, but into himself, because he's not really attached to anyone. Dobby. So it's like, okay, I mean, now the only thing I have going for me is a promise to a god to defend people, one of which is already dead. So
see how that goes.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see how both your characters process grief, especially since you're playing a little bit more laid back, subtle characters than other people in the group, I think.
And I'd say comparatively to like you're with now, just a bunch of younger people in general. Like, even though Dobby technically is like what, a third or maybe a fourth into his life.
Yeah.
as a
Like
halfling
60, it
fan.
was like 69 or something like that.
Right, but
Yeah.
that's still like, years wise. It's a lot of year experience. Like that's a lot of like
yeah. He
first
like
experience.
halflings, at least in my world, live till like they're 250, 300.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's
And
so that's comparatively that's still more life experience, even though it's like
then
you're
the others.
younger, right? That's a little bit more life experience, like to Finric, who is
And-
already an older person too.
And that's kind of where I, as far as Cynric is kind of looking at it as well. I mean, history, we have, I want to say, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, close to 10 years of kind of like in and out between each other as far as like when we met each other. So it's been an ongoing thing. I mean, that's why I make comments like, some of the older people, because Dobby is older than you guys as far as like age, but in terms of like life expectancy, he's about the same place as everyone else.
Right.
Youthful party, except for Sid.
Plus, it doesn't help that living in crappy circumstances tend to make, I don't want to say
You're
crappy
older.
people, but you essentially kind of become older due to necessity.
Grow up fast. Okay, Serenity. I think we talked about this a little bit in one of the previous episodes, but could you walk us again, like through the way you adjudicate like death and resurrection in this game? Because we've seen this attempt to be happen once and an attempt at it the second time.
Yeah. So I use the Matt Mercer rules of resurrection, just because later in the game, like there are no stakes like later in the game. If you have a cleric, like you can and you can find diamonds, like you can resurrect anyone all the time. Or you have a druid and you have some incense, like 100% you can like reincarnate people like all the time. So so in mine, I like the idea of like there's still the toll on the bringing the soul back. And so the way it works is everyone starts at a base DC of 10 to resurrect someone. And then you get to perform a ritual and you bring 3 offerings to that ritual. And those are based on skill checks. And for every successful skill check, you take away 3 from the DC. And for every failed skill check, you add 1 to the DC. If you get a nat 1 or a critical, it's like a -6 or a +2. So what happened with Dobby's was Quinn did very well. He did very successful, and he reduced the DC to a 7. Sinric then did not do so well and increased the DC to 8. And then Baltaim also did not do so well and increased the DC to 9. Generally, I rolled. Actually, no, I generally like in Matt's game, he rolls behind the scenes. I like to offer my players, it's their own fate. And so I like to offer them if they wish for me to roll behind the scenes, or if they wish for themselves to roll. And so for Sinric, they asked me to roll. I rolled it, and I think I rolled like literally just over what his DC was. And then for Dobby's, Jay said that he would do it, and he rolled a 6, which was unfortunately too low for a 9. And so he was lost.
Yeah, it's how the dice be sometimes.
Yeah, that's how it works.
It's the risk of playing games of chance,
which is interesting because it adds a whole sort of new idea behind like what happened to Dobby, considering he was marked by the god of eternal darkness and death. And so what does that actually mean for his soul? Who knows? Maybe you'll find out sometime later on in the campaign.
End game, you have to break Dobby out of hell.
Maybe we're not done seeing Dobby. I mean, it's hard to say.
Maybe.
Comes back as a poltergeist, haunts you guys. Anyway, so even though you did manage to get Dobby back, your party is in debt again to not Lex this time, another member of Lux Eterna. How do you guys feel about having all this stuff on your plate?
I mean, I don't like it.
Just
in general, I don't like it. I don't know why. Just like, I don't just.
Yeah, Kaleel's negative on this.
Yeah, I think I'm more, and this might be my biases of playing with this character in a different game. I'm like Aaron's request was straightforward and like told us up front. Lex is just like, I'm holding these motherfuckers. Like, I'm gonna hold these fucking cards, and when I use them, I'm use them. This you'll see. I'm like, I don't like that. It's gonna be like, I feel like some of them can be like, oh, it's like I'm just fucking with you with Lex, but then some of them feel like, oh man, this is gonna be a bitch.
At some point, she's gonna call on those. I mean,
yeah. And
you might find yourself in Dash breaking into someone's house, and you know.
Which I don't think morally me or you will have a problem with.
Oh no, I mean,
but yeah, it's just I don't.
It's a matter of do you really want to do that?
I don't like being in the hole. You know, I don't like being in the hole.
Very much that.
Yeah.
Which is why Baltimore was like, hey, like in most cases, Baltimore's like been like, hey, let's just handle this ourselves. Like I think the drug deal gone wrong. Baltimore's like, let's just go in there. This like let's just use what we have. I think when Cindric died, I was like, yeah, we need like this is above our pay grade.
Yeah, but your let's just use what we have was literally Quinn choose between your fucking family and Dobby.
Yes. Yeah,
like, that's your that was your like honestly, the way that the party treated Quinn was horse. Like you guys treated him so badly.
No,
so badly.
Yeah.
No wonder he is pissed.
But that's Baltine's like, I'm just gonna like let's just try this.
I know. I get where Baltaim and like everyone else was coming from, but it's basically like all this on one person's shoulders who literally just did everything to try and get his family safe.
Yeah.
And
to my intention wasn't to make my choice look that way, even though it did look that way, but
I know where I know where your characters were coming from, and I totally get it. Like, and I get where everyone else was coming from. Yeah. But if you like take it from like the Quinn-centric point and step back, you're like, wow, that's really shitty.
An awful
like
thing to make
he was stuck between really bad decisions, and he chose to do the only one that he felt was going to get them anywhere, which was get them into debt.
Yeah, and I mean my actions were along the lines of, hey. We made an accepting choice on our end. I mean, we're not asking you to do this. But we are asking you to make an acceptance into either, let's pack up and move on and accept our, happening, or do something about it.
I think that's why me and Cindric, I think we both felt that we were trying to give Quinn an out from like having to make a choice at all. Because if he didn't make a choice, then we were.
Yeah, I know you were digging the grave and everything like that. No, I totally.
It felt better for us, people who were closer to Dobby, to be accepted with. Seemed on the surface to be accepted with. He's dead. We're fine with that. Let's move on. To give him that out, than to have him make that choice, which is on outside the game is awful. That's an awful like choice to give someone.
Of course.
But like that's just kind of the like, well, that's the cards. Like Baltimore understood what he has because
But it's very interesting.
I think about Aaron at that moment.
Where Quinn is coming from with his anger, and it'll be interesting how that dynamic plays out as you guys go further in this journey.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wanted to steal that water so he couldn't make that choice. I mean, because it just. Being an older character, that's something you don't really want to put someone through. Yeah. And if he didn't have it, he couldn't make that as a choice. It was off the table. But I decided against it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So even after all that, like you guys still have a job to do and still have a world to save. The party moves on with their mission. Can you give us a glimpse into the mindsets of Cindric and Baltaim, just like having to move forward so quickly because, there is some stuff that needs to happen right now. So you can't really take time to process your emotions. You have to do it on the road.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. I mean, having a destination and a direction to go isn't always a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it helps to set the mind at ease and you're not like stuck in your head. People that don't necessarily have like a task to do while traveling might have it a little bit rougher. Yeah. So like Quinn has the ability to drive the cart. I'm at this point making maps because it's something to do. I mean, so yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we get to downtime, that's we're going to see probably some more of the grieving process actually start happening with other people, because you can't run away from, we do have a mission right now. We do have to go somewhere and do something. Even after that, we have somewhere to go and do something. But after that, once we have that free time, or in between those those things, if we have that free time, what's that going to be process be like? I think I think I don't know. I don't think Baltimore knows what he is feeling. I think he's as Dobby is someone he liked and has lost, but it was, it's obviously, it's not as long of a relationship as anyone else, as long as Cindric have had. But it still does, like, he does feel that hurt of, like, man, that's someone that, we did crazy shit together. We just did some wild shit together, like, just doing random stuff. So it's like
a mushroom trip.
Yeah. Yeah. We so it's like kind of like playing in his head, like, well, what does that mean for him? His life further on. So I think he's still processing that. I think he's still. I don't know if he looks fine on paper, on the outside, and I think he might be like, act normally, or act normally from here on out. But he might just take a turn. It just kind of depends on, like, the wind shifting for ball playing.
Yeah.
Right now the party is kind of I kind of picture it like that scene from Osmosis Jones with the zit, the bar, where eventually it's just gonna pop one day and come to a head, and because none of the party members, like, really kind of interact with each other. We're all on, like, different points of a star, and none of us have really taken those couple of steps to walk to the middle in are like, if that makes sense.
I agree, but I disagree. Baltimore has put his hand out for everyone at least once. He has tried to make some connection with everyone at least once. It might fail or it might not go as well, but he's tried. I think I tried to make that, like, that connection at least once with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I see about you guys is, like, you still all do your own thing, kind of thing. Like, you're together but not really together, and you certainly do not have strong. I would say, like, your strongest personality was probably Dobby, and Dobby did everything for himself. He was never really doing it for the group, and so you don't have a strong personality that's, like, gathering the group together and saying, like, okay, guys, this is shit, but we still have. And I, like, that paralyzes you guys a lot of the time. Like, the most surprising thing for me was, like, preparing for if you were all going to go back to Zarithimar. I was like, are you serious? You're going to go back? What, are you going to pedal a body around to the city and hope that someone just freely resurrects this half-eaten body? And I was like, wow, okay, you're going to do this while the world's ending as well. And it was like this paralysis of, like, we're so distraught and upset, and no one wants to kind of take the reins, because perhaps you're scared that if you make the wrong decision, everything falls apart and it's going to be all blamed on you. But if no one does, it's worse. And that's kind of what Aaron was telling you guys. Like, you're going to go through loss. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to make the wrong choices sometimes, and it's going to feel like shit, but you got to keep moving forward in hopes that you make the right decision next time, that you learn, and that you're able to pay it forward and keep moving and make things better, maybe even after you've made things worse. So that was like that. That's the one thing that I don't see yet for you guys. And maybe that's something that after this loss will happen for the group. But it is an interesting dynamic that still at, like, level 6 at 30 sessions in almost, you still don't have, like, a distinct core thing that's driving you guys.
I mean, we're just kind of stuck right now on, stuck more or less, whether it be on the path or, in each other's company. We're just kind of like,
you're there.
We're at an impasse, if that, And
so I think that's a lot on the like our characters, like who they are as characters too. Because me and Cindric are more laid back, and we'll say something. Me and Cindric will say something and, like, a let's do this, and then because it's like we're kind of laid back, even if we might agree, like, super want to do that, we might be like, okay, whatever. I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like, Quinn and Perry are more of the like educators. They would, like, if we are on something, they will, like, let's follow this through, but they might necessarily put the thing out first necessarily. They might not be the ones to say, let's do this first. So it's kind of,
they'll follow the path, but they won't necessarily start the
lay out
initial
the path,
thread.
right? Yeah.
We can always count on them, though, to want to take the good option
Right.
on
Good
things.
characters.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, that's not always the best choice.
Right.
Just moral, it's sometimes that won't, net us the best outcome.
Maybe.
But
Dobby was, of course, a shit starter. May he rest in peace. Actually, this is interesting. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts a little bit more. Do you think this, not 100% lack of cohesiveness, but like a lack of friendship in the party, is this just due to everyone's personality? Is it circumstances? It's a mix of stuff. Psychoanalyze yourselves for me.
I think it's just
Don't
a
take
matter
too long
that
though, because we do have to
most-
move on in a second.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter that most of us are forced together and haven't really taken the opportunity to each other and get to know each other just outside of like brief moments. So it might be worthwhile having like a campfire night to just like sit and talk, and or not just necessarily talk, but bond with people doing like what they want to do, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think don't want to toot my own horn here, but I think both teams tried to do that at least a little bit. I think the only two people he's not really like gotten, not like close obviously, but like haven't gotten like broke that acquaintance barrier with is probably Oriana and probably Cineric. I think those are the only two that he hasn't like broke that like acquaintance. We like this is like surface value thing. Like Dobby told Baltimore about that burning building, and then the girl inside the burning building. He told him about Butcher. Quinn has told him about Sister, and him and Quinn have spoken like during campfires about they're coming to their own specific passive powers, and Perry and her her people, and Perry and the what's wrong with the ocean or what's happening with the ocean. I think he's making inroads with some people, but I think he does definitely needs to work on Oriana and Cindric. And I don't think it's because he just like no, I don't. I think he just like no, they'll come to me or I'll go to them when I'm like I feel like something's not copacetic with them. I think.
But I think it's also like with Baltaim, he goes in and he's like, I'll have a good conversation with you, and then he'll turn around and be like, let's do drugs, and they're like,
yeah.
Okay, like what and so I think there's like this about face with them where they're like, we want to get to know you, but then you go off and make like rash. He's very rash. Like that's Baltaim's personality is like, I want to get this done. Like, let's just go do it. Like he'll walk through fire if he thinks on what's on the other side is important and he needs to get to it, even if there might be like a better way around it. And he's just a kind of like go-getter to do that. And I think that clashes with some of the people in the group where they're like, let's talk about this first. And that was the whole thing with like the drug dealer. You were like, no, let's just go in and like fight them. And that was an option, but
might not have been a good option.
No.
It might have been an okay option.
You don't know.
That would have been a fun option.
I don't think. Yeah.
I mean, it
definitely would have been a fun option.
It would have been an interesting one. Who knows what would have happened? It would have been a tough battle because you would have been fighting a whole bunch of people. But it's an option. But I think that there's a bunch of the group who are like, okay, but what are the other ones? And I think
that's probably the disconnect with him and Oriana.
That's what I mean. And I think that even with like Quinn and Perry a little bit, like they've gotten to know Baltaim and they're like, yeah, he seems like a decent guy. But then he goes and does like these weird like rash things, and they're like, do we want that? And I think that's where like the still disconnect is.
I'd probably even say maybe 20 years, I would have a problem with you doing drugs and doing all the stupid decisions. But now it's like, that's why I went to go sleep in the other room. You're going to do what you're going to do regardless.
Let the kids do what they want.
I mean, he's only 26, so
he's
in that like, I stay up all night, I pull all night and just fucking go to work the next day. I'm fine. He's still in that like, my back doesn't hurt when I wake up in the morning type of thing. Like he's still in that like.
Okay, point of order. I'm 26. My back does hurt when I wake up. You
so
age faster than you think.
His mindset's still that young, and plus he's like Asimar, so he's probably like 26 for Asimar, probably
he's like 5 years old, whatever.
Yeah, that's like he's young.
Yeah, they live longer in my world.
Yeah, so he's relatively a young guy, so he's still got that. That young guy.
Young and spry, and rash. Oof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, if you were going to make like a stupid decision to, like, in that instance, instead of doing drugs, to go kill the hag, I probably would have tried to stop you once and then went with you. Because I mean, it's one of those, if you're going to get
But
yourself
we
killed,
didn't know about the hag
Yeah.
until I did the drugs.
yeah. But that's kind of where
Just
the
saying.
character is. It's like, okay, I mean, if you're going to do something stupid, I'll try to go with you and prevent as much as possible from happening, but understand you're probably still going to do something stupid. But
It's a
I
free
always
spirit,
think
man.
that rash decisions are honestly the spice of D&D.
They're the best things ever. They're so much fun. They're so much fun.
Until you get someone killed.
Consequences.
You know, it is a consequence. And I think now we actually have an opportunity to have a conversation about, like, you know, decision making and, you know, where everyone's coming from and what everyone's going to do going forward.
It's hit hard this time. Yep.
Yeah.
And we're stuck with each other right now, so we have that opportunity.
You're
because
very
it's
close quarters.
And maybe Campion's like a licensed therapist. He's just like, hey guys, you guys need to work out your fucking problems. Like,
He's like,
you guys are here, you guys are
I have a
here.
PhD in clinical psychology.
Yeah, I'm a bounty hunter / doctor.
Hey, you don't know.
Like, licensed therapist.
You don't know.
We'll just leverage Oriana to put up her bubble and keep him out, and, you know, we'll have our little powwow while he waits outside in the cart.
Rude. Anyway, yeah, so you guys are alone with your feelings and each other. Luckily, you did have a snake fight to distract you, and you got your new friend, Campion, who's maybe coming along. We don't know. Serenity, could you talk to us about designing this fight and designing Campion's entrance? Because it's the first time we've had a new PC.
So I didn't think that Dobby wasn't going to be resurrected. I was like, oh, it's first DC. Like, they'll do well. That was just a random encounter that I had set up. And when I told Jay to make the character, just in case, I was like, you just need to give me like 3 sentences on like who this is. I don't need your full backstory yet. But I just need to kind of understand why you would be out in the desert. And then he gave the whole bounty hunter thing. And I was like, perfect. I know exactly where I can add you in so that he wouldn't be. I mean, some DMs have a hard time introducing new characters like on the spot. Like, some people are out for like 2 or 3 sessions before a character could be introduced, but I had a perfect way to have him come in, and so it was kind of random. I was like, oh yeah, good thing I made this encounter with these like 3 1T people like traveling out in the desert, and I had this like backstory for like why they were, but I figured like the group won't ever figure it out. But I was like, yeah, he'll be hiding on the back of their cart of bodies that they're carting off to their ritual, and have a bounty on one of their heads. So it ended up working out.
Organic. Awesome. So what do you guys think about Jay's new character so far?
Cool.
I don't know yet. I was in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cindric literally just like, hey, I'm Cindric.
It's that word morning.
It's like, you know, just had a jog. Yeah. Can we go back to the cart and go? I want to take a nap.
He seems on just the like 10 minutes we've met. He seems like it's completely like 180 from Dobby. Like, in a sense, but he's also similar in the same way too. He's all very like, I'm about the job. Like Dobby,
it's
like, I'm about the job. But he's less like, I'm about the job anyway. Fucking how? Like, let's just fucking run out the, like, you know, let's do whatever. He seems like, no, I'm about the job. Like,
let's methodically think about how to get this
how
done.
to do this job done, and then, you know, fuck, I missed my target. You know, he seems like he's more of a cool, calm, collected guy, maybe. Whereas Dobby is still about like getting the deed done, but less of like any way possible. Like, fucking,
he's very
babies,
not cool,
acid,
calm, or collected.
explosions.
You know, you blow up a building of 40 people to get one, and hey, yeah, you did your job, but you know,
it worked. Cool. We are going to move on. I just wanted to comment though. You guys are so bad at animals. You're just so bad.
I wanted to license the move of our friend Dodsworth dying. So I thought, I have shit animal handling. Also, probably never, like, he lives in a city. There's no like horses driving around. Usually he probably walks mostly everywhere he goes. He's like, I've never driven before. Let me drive. He's like, oh yeah. And it was exactly what I hoped it was to be, is me rolling shit.
I tried to encourage you.
Yeah.
It was
I was
fun.
trying to lighten the death.
It did.
It did. I'm
It
sure
did.
you'll manage to point
So-
those little birdies in the right direction someday. Anyway, we're moving on to our topic for the day, which is streaming. It's going to be very meta because we're talking about streaming on our stream. So, of course, our first question is to our beloved DM mom, who is the creator of the network. My question is, how did you first get involved in like streaming? Did you used to stream video games before jumping into tabletop? Did you hop right into D&D? What's up?
Yeah, I started with League, I think. No, actually, I think I started with Hearthstone. On my own personal channel. I got into it like a few years back when I was working for like Rockstar, and I was watching a bunch of streamers, and I was like, oh, this seems fun. I'm gonna try to do this. And I got a few viewers like consistently, but my schedule was so ridiculous with work and like working like 100-hour weeks trying to get GTA 5 out the door. I just like wasn't consistent. Like streaming, you really have to be consistent in order to gather an audience. Like if you can't set a schedule for yourself, like forget it. You're just doing it for yourself at that point, and then you might as well just play on your own. So that's how I originally started, and then I decided it would be fun to try to do it with like a D&D game and see how we could bring our personalities and a game to the wider web and see if anyone would be interested in watching.
Cool beans. So, when did you first know you wanted your first D&D stream, and what was like the journey from thinking, hey, that would be cool, to being like, I'm doing this, I have a plan?
I mean, I've always wanted to stream D&D. I mean, like I got into that's how I met you, right? Was like streaming D&D with Frank and his game. And I think the thing that always frustrated me was like the inconsistency of people doing it, and I realized like how that was hurting his stream. And so like after we broke off and like started to just do our own thing, I got together with this new group of people that we play with now on Mondays, and I play with on Wednesdays, and they just seemed like a really consistent group, and they were very much into like creating characters and playing those personalities. And I think like for a stream, you can't just do like I've played with people who are very like wow about how they play Dungeons and Dragons. Like they talk about DPS and procking abilities, and they like are very dungeon delvy, and they just want to go in and like fight things and go through a cavern or whatever. And that won't work on stream, I don't think. Like people have to have a balance of story and excitement. And so with this other group, I was like, I'd really like to try streaming, but at the time we had a few people that were not comfortable doing it. And so it really started like last year, I think. What like in August I started to talk about it, and then I started to write the lore, and then by like October I had asked all of these people if they wanted to like join the stream, and started to get everything together, and then it took like 6 months from like October to March to get all the artwork, to get the layouts, to get the schedule, to get the lore, to get the characters, everything.
Yeah, I know there was. Yeah, I know there's a huge amount of back end. I wasn't really involved in the back end because I didn't get involved at the network, in the Roll for Damage network until relatively recently. But can you give us like a bit more of like an insider view into all of the prep work that went into launching the stream? Because as you said, there was a ton of lore to write, there was art to get, music, layouts, stuff.
Yeah, it's really hard because like I'm one person, and I don't I'm not like, people look at like the D&D streams that are out there, and like Critical Role, High Rollers, Acquisitions Inc. Like these like have production companies with professional equipment. My like one thing to like all these guys was like, just have a decent camera, a decent microphone. We'll do a test, make sure that like everyone's video works and that I can see you and I can hear you properly. I need to make sure that you're going to be consistent. Like if you're not, I will kick you from the game, which I've told all of them. But they're all really great about being on time or being around. And if they're sick, they're sick. It is what it is. But but yeah, it was like the first part was like finding the right group of people, because there's no point in even starting on anything if you don't have the people who are going to actually be there. And the amazing thing with these guys was, like, I told them in October, I was like, I really want to do this, but I was like, I don't know when this is going to start. So like, can you bear with me? And they all did. They like hung on. And everyone kind of took on a job. Like we had to get, like I said, layouts, which like Laura did. We had to get the like some of the artwork, like get it set up for the various like intros and breaks, and like Caleel helped with like a lot of that. We needed the panels and stuff like that, the panel art, which Tick did for us. We needed like Twitter, like people handling our Twitter and stuff like that, which Chad like handles most of the time. So like everyone kind of like took on a job and like ran with it and really, really helped out. I had to contract our music and our art and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, it took our artist a while to do like 6 characters, but by the time she finished and I had the lore ready and everyone had their characters and backstories ready, yeah, it was about 6 months of stuff. So yeah, a lot of work went into the behind the scenes of getting everything ready.
Yeah, that's
we did a couple of
intense
tests, I
work.
think, stream tests as well,
Yeah.
where I like tested to make sure that my setup, because this all runs on my own home computer. Like again, I don't have servers or anything like the professional organizations do. This all runs on Serenity's home PC. So yeah, I have to have like the proper setup. I have to make sure that nothing breaks down and all my stuff is relatively new. I have good internet, all of that stuff. So
Mhm. Yeah, what a trooper, Serenity's home PC.
this is why I'm always here for What's the Damage, guys. Even if I'm
Right?
not on the show, I am behind the scenes because I'm the one
Behind
running
the
the
most
scenes,
stream.
consistent
Serenity's
guest.
always here.
Always here. Never leave.
Yeah, that's why sometimes I seem like I'm talking to the air, because she makes comments in the background. Yeah, so having done all of that, do you have like any words of wisdom for like people thinking about setting up a stream or just getting started setting up a D&D stream? Like obviously it's a ton of organization in the back end.
Yeah, I would say like don't do it unless you are super passionate about D&D. Like I play 4 games a week. This is
You have to
one
be
of
a
the
fucking
this is one of the 3.
nerd.
4 is actually a lot for me, and I like once if I die in any one of those games, I would probably
You're like,
drop
bye.
one. Yeah, I will probably drop one. But I do love D&D, and it's a big passion for me, and I've always wanted to do this. And so I would say one, like just be no, because it's a lot of work. It is not easy. I give up my Tuesdays and my Fridays just to stream this. And then on top of that, I have to write all my notes as a DM. I have to make sure that everything streams correctly. I do all the video editing. I get everything up on YouTube. Like I do all of that. And so that's like all my time taken up for that stuff. I would say if you're just interested in streaming in general, probably start as like, doing video games or something like a talk show, or, have your friends as guests, or, do the, like, I think there's like on Twitch, there's like, a just chatting category where you can like literally sit and like chat about stuff. Like do something like that, something much more cash, to just get a feel for it and see what you enjoy. But like a D&D stream is very like high intense work, especially if you want to have like decent quality. Like we're still not, I mean, we have decent quality. I think we have a decent quality stream, and we're not at like the professional level that you see with like some of the stuff on like the D&D channel and stuff like that. And so you want to at least have some kind of quality so that your viewers are going to come in and enjoy and understand you and get some kind of immersion into the story that you're creating. And so like I would say that like at least have some kind of like layout or way of showing the game that you're playing. I know a lot of people do like very theater of the mind stuff, like don't ever have a battle map. That's fine. You don't have to have that. But maybe have like at least your character stats and cards and things like that, so that people understand like what's happening in the game and things like that. But yeah, I would say like you really have to want to do it, especially as like small time when you're going to be starting it on your own computer and have no one else to help you, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So obviously, despite being incredibly well known and popular, we're still growing our audience. What are some of the struggles that you've come across, like entering a saturated market like D&D Twitch?
I mean, growing is really hard, right? Like I think I'm so happy that we were able to hit affiliate and that we have like at least a decent number of people. But like consistently growing, like we're nowhere near partner and we don't get like thousands of viewers all the time. I think it's just trying to find ways to like market your channel and make it interesting. And we constantly try to like ask our viewers and our people that watch if there's anything we can do to make it more interesting. I'd love to try and figure out like what other sort of content on the Roll for Damage channel that we can run. Like we've done a couple of video game streams and stuff like that, but it's hard to really know like what people actually will gravitate towards beyond the game. But I think like for a small stream, I'm pretty happy with the audience that we currently have, and hopefully, you know, over time. Like last week, we had I think the biggest number of
10,
viewers
11.
we've yeah
Nice, yeah.
the
Maybe 12.
largest number of average viewers
Yeah.
that we've had in a while, and maybe that's just because you know we're starting to pick up pace again or whatnot, or maybe it was just a freak accident. I don't know, but I think
The secret is
the,
kill your PCs.
I think the thing is like a lot of it really is like a lot of the streamers that I watch and that have become popular, even some of them that are not like they're not like ninja, like you know they're not like millions and millions of viewers, but they get a good number of people watching them. Like a lot of them, it took them like 2-3 years to really get viewership. And so I am not at the point where I think like, oh, we're not growing fast enough or like this is pointless or whatever. I think like it takes time and consistency and we just have to show that. So
yeah, be passionate, be consistent. What was the third one?
Have fun.
Passion, consistency. No, fun is not one of them. Passion, consistency, kill your PCs, be patient. And believe in yourself.
And kill your PCs.
Yeah, kill your PCs. That's the most important one. Anyway, so Tick and Caleel, have you guys streamed before?
No, I don't think so. I've had the idea of like wanting to do like some sort of like YouTube or Twitch stream or like recording for YouTube. Obviously, I've had that like idea in the back of my head because I'm a audio engineer student. So like and I've taken some classes on like editing and like film and stuff like that because they want you to be well rounded and stuff. And so like that's always interested me in like doing like the production and all that stuff of like maybe a YouTube channel or a streaming Twitch stream. Just never like had the time or thought like had that like felt like I was at the place to do it yet. And so when Serenity asked me, I was like, yeah, that's like cool as hell. I'd love to do like something like that, be part of something like that, because it's like something I was like thinking of or want to try to do. So it was like, yeah, that sounds like a neat project to be a part of.
Yeah, definitely is a neat project.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So now let's talk about more D&D specific things in streaming. So Serenity, is DMing on stream different from doing it at home? Is it like harder, easier? Do you find you have a different mindset about it differently? What's the difference?
Yeah. I mean, for me at least, I don't know other people, but I write my notes for my campaign on Friday compared to like the campaign that I was running on Monday are so much more extensive. I've got like I don't know how big is my notes document now? It's 80, 90.
There we look. Will it even open?
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And it's just I think the biggest thing for me DMing on stream is less like figuring out like the puzzles or the fun stuff to do. Like that's easy enough, like figure out what kind of encounters and what kind of story. The hardest part for me is the descriptions, because I feel like for viewers I have to be much more descriptive about the world, because they're watching and they're trying to like imagine these things in their minds. They're not seeing it. And I do it for the players as well, but it's much easier as a player. You're kind of like already in the game, you're already in character, you're already like immersing yourself in this world. So if something isn't as descriptive, you can still kind of piece it together for yourself. But as a viewer, you kind of want that understanding. It's the same with when you're reading a book, right? You want to understand, like, what does the palace look like? How do I imagine this in my head? And so, yeah, I have to be a lot more cognitive of those kinds of notes. So like my notes, I know they always say like in DMing, like don't write out super extensive notes because the players will go wherever. I have super extensive notes of like them traveling off into the desert, and I'm like, here is exactly, it's like I talk about like how arid it is or how the dunes are or whatever. And the nice thing is like I can create descriptions of like a city where it's like, okay, if they don't decide to go to that city right now, I'm sure they'll eventually go there, or if they don't, it'll be in like another campaign or whatever. But yeah, majority wise, I at least have an understanding of where they're going, and then I like write up the little descriptions of where they are, and then I have like, you know, for like shops and things like that. I also, if it's an interesting shopkeeper that I want to be like fun, I will make like an extensive personality for them and play it out. If it's just someone where they're like, oh, we want to buy rations, I'm just like, okay, you find a shopkeep and do that, and then I don't have any.
They're there. They're humanoid. Yeah,
exactly.
Not everyone's a
stuff.
Randall.
Yeah, not everyone's Randall.
Everyone's Randall.
Yeah.
Sad.
But yeah, it is for me a lot more extensive, just because I'm not just DMing to my players, I'm DMing to my audience, and I want to make sure that they understand where the players are and where they're going and what the setting is. So
you're inviting people into the theater of the mind. There's some guests here now, not just the players. Yeah, so on that note, for the players, is it different playing on stream, like having that awareness that you have an audience to entertain? You're not just doing it for yourselves.
I think everything is always different when you play with an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not necessarily play, but are in front of an audience.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm a naturally like humorous, like good humor person, but I think I'm like on stream I do try to like, you know, try to make it like where it's entertaining for them to see what we're doing too. And I think that's kind of why I like my character where he's at, because I can kind of autopilot his reactions to things and things to do, because he'll just do what the first thing to do, and so I'm like, okay, I don't have to think about that, but I can start thinking about like how I'm gonna interact with someone. Like someone does like, you know, the ghost, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fucking bring up the ghost kissing somewhere. Like I can like, oh, I already know this is gonna come up somewhere. So it's like I can kind of autopilot his like initial reactions for that, and then help the stream feel like what's like what I'm thinking, like, you know, what's going on. So I think it does. Some things get overplayed or not overplayed, but over heightened, I would say.
Exaggerated somewhat. Interesting. Well, you tick.
I think when you're not on camera, you kind of have this like freedom that no one's watching you, no one's judging what you're doing, no one's, you know, looking at and examining your every move. So you tend to be more free and liberal with how you portray something. But it's like that perception of, okay, you have to be the best you can because there's an audience, if that makes sense.
You mean the best player, or?
Well, just in general, being like, you know, not necessarily exclusively to D&D, but the fact that you're on camera and playing on camera, that's kind of, in this situation, yeah, the best player, the best, you know, interpretation of the character you're doing.
Yeah, I just throw it out the window.
don't pick your nose.
Yeah. I mean,
out the window.
I'm notorious. I have to be
Don't eat your
fidgeting with
boogers.
something for, you know, everything, or else, you know, I just lose interest like right off the bat. So, I mean, I'm always looking off camera and doing everything else, but.
Oh, I just had a question, which I immediately forgot. Oh, yeah. So, no, I forgot it again. I'm so sorry, guys. My cat is like in the background. I hear so much noise.
I hear your cat. Jingle, jingle.
Sorry, that's the cat.
What is she playing with a toy?
Yeah, she's got like this scratching post that has like in the base there's a little jingle ball that like goes around on a track, and she goes nuts over it.
I love that animals are so like base instinct, like mindless, where like they'll just go after, like my dog, you just give her a squeaky toy and for like 10 minutes she's good to go. And then eventually she gets like bored of it, and then she'll like rest her chin on the top of it and she's like, this toy's not doing anything anymore. I'm lazy.
Like I have chewed all the joy out of this. I know, little toy.
It's just so funny, but animals are so funny. Like they'll get just fixated on something.
She's like, I'm gonna get this fucking ball out of this toy. It's never coming out, Ruby. I'm sorry.
And what's the plan if they ever do get it out? I mean,
There's
she's
not.
not strong enough to rip this apart, so I think she's not strong
yeah,
enough
for
to
me
rip it
it's
apart.
the stuffing's starting to come out of the toy. This one has to be
Mhm.
thrown in the garbage because I don't want nobody to eat a whole
Yeah.
bunch of
Does your dog like rip the squeaky bits out and then just play with the squeaky bits? Max
No,
used to do that.
I've never, I mean, she would probably, but she's
Mhm.
never got that far because normally they have it like stuffed inside of all of like the fluffy stuffing and she will eat that shit. And I'm like, no, I am not.
No,
letting
no,
you
you're
do that.
gonna be sick.
Yeah.
it takes
Don't do that.
0.25 seconds for my dog to get to the squeaky bit of a toy.
Yeah, my mom's dog used to do that. Like we gave him a squeaky toy, he'd have it for like a couple of weeks and he'd just like start gutting it and like going after the squeaky.
Some dogs
and then
are
he
heavy
played
chewers,
he played
man.
with the squeaky. He loves the squeaky.
There you go.
Yeah. He once had like this giraffe that he kept like wholly intact for like months and months. Like he loved this giraffe so much. Then one day he was like, "Okay,
Rip
well,
the
it's
neck
time
off.
for you. It's time for you to die, giraffe." We had a good run. Um,
Animals.
like it's like you get attached to like the pig you're raising, then it's bacon time one day.
So yeah, I'm good with animals in real life. There you go.
There you go. I legitimately cannot remember the question. I was stalling for time talking about animals. But since I fucking forgot, I think that's our time for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Serenity, always wonderful to have you, like every week. Caleel, thank you. Tick, thank you so much. And thank you to all the viewers. Tune in on Friday for the next episode of Roll for Damage. Tune in on Tuesday for the next episode of whatever this is. Check out our store. Check out our Twitch. Subscribe to our Twitch, maybe. We'd like that. Anyway,
Yeah,
thank
subscribe.
you.
It's
Yeah.
still September, isn't it?
September.
It's
Yeah.
still September.
Yep. And also subscribe to our YouTube. That one's free. And
That's
the more
free.
viewers we get, we can eventually actually get Roll for Damage maybe as a domain. Because right now it's just like YouTube /
Yep. The gobbledygook.
YouTube / gobbledygook. Yeah, so help us get our domain name. That's our goal for, I don't know, this
2020.
winter?
Can one thing happen?
Goal for
in 2020 that's
2020.
good?
Yeah.
Can it?
Let
Please?
Get us our domain name.
Subscribe to our channel, make one good thing happen in
So like
2020.
here's my scale. It's either we get the domain name or on YouTube or meteor comet / zombie apocalypse. Those are the two things that 2020 has to end in one of those two ways.
Yeah.
Hey,
or
I'm still
it's
holding
not
out
good.
for Alien Invasion. I'm still holding out for
Okay.
Alien
This
Invasion.
will
I
be fun.
want it. It's
This
gonna
will be
come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zombie
Good night,
apocalypse
guys.
would be interesting.
Yeah.
No, I'm done with plagues. I'm fucking done with plagues.
All right,
Plagues
guys.
are overrated. They're stupid. Good night.
Have a good night,
Have a
everyone.
good one.
Hopefully one of us comes back.
Yeah, we'll see. Who else is gonna die?
Heat exhaustion.